First contact confusion. The massive Kelvary diplomatic vessel Eternal Wisdom dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in brilliant patterns. Grand Ambassador Varric stood on the observation deck, his slender fingers steepled before him as he watched the small blue planet grow larger on the view screen. Primitive, he remarked to his aide, Lyra. They've barely managed interplanetary travel within their own system. Lyra consulted her data tablet. Their technological progression is unusual, Ambassador. They've advanced remarkably in some areas while remaining stagnant in others. Explain. Their computational systems are advancing exponentially, yet their propulsion technology remains chemical-based. Their medical science is sophisticated, but they still burn fossil fuels. And their military capabilities. She trailed off. Yes. Contradictory data, sir. Their weapons technology is advanced, but their largest vessels are being repurposed. Varric's ridged brow furrowed. Repurposed. For what purpose? Unknown, sir, but we'll soon find out. We're being hailed by their primary diplomatic vessel. They're requesting permission to approach. The human vessel that approached the Eternal Wisdom was unlike anything in the Kelvary database. It was massive by human standards, nearly a kilometer in length, with the unmistakable silhouette of what had once been a military carrier. But where weapon emplacements should have been, observation domes gleamed. The flight deck had been enclosed in a transparent shield, revealing lush gardens and what appeared to be research facilities. What is that? Varric demanded, his 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sign of confusion in his species. Lyra's fingers danced across her tablet. According to our database, it appears to be a retrofitted CVN-class supercarrier, historically an ocean-going weapons platform, but this one has been significantly modified. They sent us a warship. Varric's voice rose in pitch, a sign of alarm. No, Ambassador. According to their transmission, this is the UES Prometheus, a multi-purpose research and diplomatic vessel. It was formerly the U.S. Gerald R. Ford, decommissioned from military service 20 years ago. They sent us a used warship. Now Varric's voice contained both alarm and indignation. The human vessel continued its approach, moving with surprising grace for something of its size. As it drew closer, more details became apparent. Solar arrays extending like wings, hydroponic gardens visible through transparent sections, and a complete absence of obvious weapons. They're hailing us again, sir. The captain wishes to speak with you directly. The view screen flickered, and a human female appeared. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and she wore a uniform of navy blue with silver insignias that Varric's translator implant identified as indicating a rank of captain. Grand Ambassador Varric, I am Captain Eliza Chen of the United Earth ship Prometheus. On behalf of the United Earth government, I welcome you to the Sol system. Varric performed the formal greeting gesture of his people, a sweeping motion with all 4 arms. Captain Chen, the Kelvary Federation acknowledges your greeting. I must admit curiosity about your vessel. Our records indicate it was once a weapon of war. Captain Chen smiled. An astute observation, Ambassador. The Prometheus was indeed once the U.S. Gerald R. Ford, the lead ship of America's final class of nuclear aircraft carriers. When global unification made national navies obsolete, we faced a choice: scrap these engineering marvels or repurpose them. We chose the latter. A curious decision, Varric remarked, not bothering to hide the condescension in his tone. In the Kelvary Federation, weapons remain weapons. Repurposing implies a lack of military vigilance. If the human took offense, she showed no sign. Perhaps it demonstrates an evolution in thinking. The Prometheus now serves as our foremost research vessel, with facilities dedicated to xenobiology, astrophysics, and diplomatic exchange. We thought it appropriate for first contact with your people. I see. Varric did not, in fact, see. The concept was alien to him. Literally, we have prepared docking protocols for a vessel of your approximate dimensions, Please follow the guidance of our navigational beacon. Thank you, Ambassador. We look forward to coming aboard. The transmission ended. Lyra approached Varric cautiously. Sir, our tactical analysis of their vessel is complete. It appears they've removed all conventional weaponry. The reactor has been replaced with a fusion core that seems primarily configured for power generation rather than propulsion. Most of the internal space has been converted to research laboratories and diplomatic facilities. They've neutered a warship, Varric said, his tone caught between amusement and disbelief. How characteristic of a species that hasn't faced the realities of interstellar politics. They'll learn, eventually. All young species do. There's something else, sir. Our deep scans detected anomalies we couldn't identify. Structures and systems that don't match any known human technology in our database. Prototype technology, Varric suggested. Possibly. Or technologies acquired from other sources. Other sources. You suggest they've made contact with other spacefaring civilizations before us. Lyra hesitated. I suggest nothing, Ambassador, merely reporting anomalies. The docking procedure took nearly an hour. The human vessel was not designed for compatibility with Kelvary systems. Nevertheless, the human engineers displayed remarkable adaptability, fashioning connection points that interfaced adequately with the Kelvary docking mechanisms. When the human delegation finally boarded the Eternal Wisdom, Varric was struck by their diversity. Captain Chen led the group, flanked by humans of varying hues, sizes, and apparent subspecies. Most interesting was an elderly male with silver hair and a bearing that suggested significant authority despite his advanced age. Ambassador Varric, Chen began. Allow me to introduce Dr. Alexander Petrov, former Admiral of the United Earth Navy, and now Chief Science Officer of the Prometheus. The elderly human stepped forward. A pleasure, Ambassador. I commanded the Ford during her final military deployment. Now I have the honor of leading her scientific mission. Varric's translator implant struggled with the concept. You commanded this vessel as a weapon of war, and now you command it as not a weapon of war. Petrov smiled, deep lines crinkling around his eyes. Indeed, from launching fighter jets to launching scientific inquiries, a far more fulfilling mission, I assure you. Fascinating, Varric said, though his tone suggested bewilderment rather than fascination. We have prepared a tour of our vessel, followed by initial diplomatic discussions. We look forward to it, Chen replied, and we hope you'll accept our invitation to tour the Prometheus afterward. We believe the cultural exchange will be enlightening for both our peoples. As the human delegation followed Varric through the crystalline corridors of the Eternal Wisdom, Lyra fell into step beside Captain Chen. Your vessel puzzles us, Lyra admitted. Our society maintains clear distinctions between military and scientific vessels. Chen nodded. Many human societies once did the same. But we've found that adaptation and repurposing often lead to innovation. The Prometheus contains echoes of her military past, but those very features make her uniquely suited for her current mission. Such as, the flight deck now houses our atmospheric research shuttles. The former weapons bays contain deployable research stations. The command and control systems that once coordinated military operations now coordinate scientific ones. Lyra's expression remained skeptical. And your defenses? The void is not always friendly. Something flickered in Chen's eyes, a hardness that hadn't been there before. The Prometheus is quite capable of taking care of herself, if necessary. Before Lyra could inquire further, alarms began blaring throughout the Eternal Wisdom. Varric's communicator chimed urgently. Ambassador, came a tense voice. We're detecting a gravitational anomaly forming near the 7th planet of this system. It's unlike anything in our database. Varric turned to the humans, suspicion flaring. Is this your doing? Captain Chen's expression shifted from diplomatic politeness to focused concern in an instant. Neptune. No, Ambassador. But we should return to our vessels immediately. If there's an anomaly forming, both our ships may be needed. Needed for what? Varric demanded. Dr. Petrov stepped forward, his elderly frame suddenly radiating authority. Ambassador, if this is what I suspect, we don't have time for explanations. The Prometheus was built for exactly this scenario. What scenario? Varric's voice rose with frustration. Captain Chen was already moving, her delegation falling in behind her with practiced efficiency. A gravitational shear event. And if we're right, Ambassador, you're about to discover why humans convert warships into research vessels, and why that's not nearly as contradictory as you might think. Crisis and revelation. The anomaly near Neptune expanded rapidly, a swirling vortex of distorted space-time that sent ripples of gravitational waves pulsing through the solar system. Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Chen stood in the former Combat Information Center, now the Integrated Sciences Hub, watching as holographic displays showed the anomaly's growth. Classification confirmed, announced Dr. Maya Rivera, the ship's lead physicist. It's a Class 3 gravitational shear event, similar to the Europa incident 5 years ago, but significantly larger. Dr. Petrov nodded grimly. Projected impact. At current expansion rates, the gravitational waves will destabilize Neptune's orbit within 6 hours. Secondary effects will reach Earth in approximately 9 hours. Chen turned to her communications officer. Status of the Calvary vessel. They're maintaining position, Captain. Ambassador Varric is demanding to speak with you. Put him through. The ambassador's face appeared on the main screen, his normally composed features tightened with anger, and what Chen recognized as fear. Captain Chen, explain this phenomenon immediately. Our sensors indicate it could tear apart both our vessels. It's a gravitational shear event, Ambassador. A rupture in space-time that creates cascading gravitational waves. We've encountered them before, though never one this large. And your solution? Chen exchanged glances with Petrov before answering. The Prometheus was specifically redesigned to study and neutralize these anomalies. That's why we converted a carrier. We needed the space for the specialized equipment. Varric's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe your species repurpose military vessels to combat natural phenomena? Not exactly natural, Petrov interjected. We believe these events are side effects of certain types of faster-than-light travel, specifically the kind used by vessels unfamiliar with the quantum peculiarities of our region of space. Understanding dawned on Varric's face. You're suggesting that someone else has been visiting our neighborhood? Yes, Chen confirmed, and leaving these dangerous anomalies in their wake. The Prometheus and her sister ships were converted specifically to deal with this threat. How? We need to get closer to the anomaly. The Prometheus has specialized gravitational dampening systems that can help stabilize the event, but we'll need your help. Varric's expression shifted from skepticism to alarm. Our help? What can we possibly? Your ship's crystalline hull, Petrov interrupted. It's composed of serotonite, isn't it? The ambassador's surprise was evident. How could you possibly know that? We've encountered it before. Serotonite has unique properties that can amplify and redirect gravitational fields when properly energized. If you're willing, we believe we can modify your vessel's hull to help contain the anomaly while we neutralize it. For several seconds, Varric was silent. Finally, he spoke. You're asking us to trust you with modifications to our flagship diplomatic vessel based on theories about phenomena we've never encountered before. Yes, Chen said simply, because if we don't act together, both our vessels, and potentially Earth itself, will be at risk. After another long pause, Varric nodded. What do you require of us? The next hours were a flurry of activity. Human engineers worked alongside their Calvary counterparts, installing temporary modifications to the Eternal Wisdom's hull systems. Meanwhile, the Prometheus underwent its own transformation panels along the former carrier's hull slid aside, revealing massive gravitational field generators. The transparent dome over the flight deck retracted, and what had appeared to be gardens and research facilities reconfigured themselves into an array of sophisticated equipment. From the Eternal Wisdom's observation deck, Commander Zarful watched in astonishment. They concealed all of this, he asked Lyra. Why maintain the pretense of a research vessel? It is a research vessel, replied a voice behind them. They turned to find Dr. Petrov, who had remained aboard the Kelveri ship to coordinate the modifications. Everything you saw serves dual purposes. The hydroponics gardens provide food for the crew and organic compounds for our gravitational field modulators. The research laboratories study cosmic phenomena and develop countermeasures against them. But the deception, Zarful began. Not deception, Petrov corrected. Adaptability. Humans learned long ago that the most effective designs serve multiple functions. When we encountered our first gravitational shear event 15 years ago, we didn't build new ships from scratch. We adapted what we had. On the main view screen, the Prometheus continued its transformation. What had once been the carrier's island, the superstructure rising from the flight deck, split open to reveal a massive gravitational cannon. That was the ship's reactor housing, Zarful noted. You kept a weapon there all along. Not a weapon, Petrov corrected. A gravitational stabilizer. It generates a counterfield that can collapse the anomaly. But it requires tremendous power, hence the need for a vessel with a reactor large enough to support it. And our role in this? Lyra asked. Your ship's crystalline hull can create a containment field around the anomaly, preventing it from expanding further while we collapse it. But I must warn you, it will place significant stress on your vessel. Zarful's expression hardened with determination. The Kelveri do not shy from danger, Doctor. We will do our part. As both ships approached the anomaly, the scale of the threat became clear. The swirling vortex had grown to nearly the size of Earth's moon, with gravitational tendrils reaching outward like hungry appendages. Analysis. Chen asked as the Prometheus took up position. The anomaly is still growing, Rivera reported, but its rate of expansion has slowed. We're detecting an unusual energy signature at its core, different from previous events. Meaning? Meaning this may not be an accidental byproduct. It could be deliberately generated. Chen's expression darkened. Hostile action. Unknown, Captain. But the pattern suggests intelligence. Inform the Kelveri. They need to know what they're getting into. The Eternal Wisdom moved into position opposite the Prometheus, its crystalline hull beginning to glow with an otherworldly light as the modifications came online. Containment field initializing, reported Chen's tactical officer. The Kelveri vessel is performing admirably, Captain. Containment at 62% and rising. Gravitational stabilizers online, Rivera announced. Ready to collapse the anomaly on your command. Chen took a deep breath. Begin collapse sequence. The Prometheus shuddered as the gravitational cannon powered up, drawing massive amounts of energy from the ship's reactor. A focused beam of distorted spacetime shot forth, striking the anomaly at its center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the anomaly began to shrink, its swirling mass contracting toward the point where the beam struck. It's working, Rivera reported. Anomaly contraction at 15%, 30%. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Energy spike, shouted the tactical officer. Something's pushing back. The beam from the Prometheus wavered as an opposing force emanated from the anomaly center. The ship rocked violently. What's happening? Chen demanded. The anomaly is generating a counterfield, Rivera explained, her voice tight with tension. As if it's resisting us. That's impossible. These phenomena are natural. They don't resist. This one is, Captain. And the Kelveri containment field is starting to buckle under the pressure. On the view screen, the Eternal Wisdom visibly strained, its crystalline hull flickering, as it absorbed massive gravitational forces. Chen opened a channel. Ambassador Varick, your ship is taking too much strain. Pull back immediately. And allow this anomaly to threaten both our vessels. Came Zarful's voice instead. No, Captain. The Kelveri do not abandon allies in battle. This isn't a battle, Commander, isn't it? Zar Thul interrupted. Your scientist confirmed this anomaly shows signs of intelligence. If not a battle, then what would you call it? Before Chen could respond, Rivera called out, Captain, I'm detecting a structure within the anomaly. Something solid at its core. The main screen zoomed in, penetrating the swirling gravitational distortions to reveal something that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. A metallic object, clearly artificial, pulsing with energy at the heart of the anomaly. Is that what I think it is? Chen asked quietly. Rivera nodded. A device. Someone is generating this anomaly deliberately. Chen's jaw set with determination. Can we disable it? Maybe, but we'd need to get closer, within the anomaly itself. The shield generators would never hold, the tactical officer protested. No, Chen agreed, but there might be another way. She opened a channel to the Kelveri vessel. Commander Zar Thul, we've identified an artificial device at the center of the anomaly. We believe it's generating the entire phenomenon. To what purpose? The commander demanded. Unknown, but we need to disable it, and we can't get close enough without being torn apart. What are you suggesting, Captain? Chen took a deep breath. A joint operation. Your crystalline hull technology can withstand the gravitational forces better than our shields. If you're willing, we propose creating a protected corridor through the anomaly. Your ship generating a tunnel of stable space, while the Prometheus provides the power to maintain it. And once this corridor is established, we send in a team, half human, half Kelveri, to reach the device and shut it down. There was a long pause before Zar Thul responded. You trust us enough to propose a joint mission into unknown danger? I do, Chen replied without hesitation. Because right now, Commander, our interests are perfectly aligned, and sometimes that's enough to begin trust. Another pause, then, very well, Captain Chen. The Kelveri will stand with humanity against this threat. As the two ships began realigning for this desperate maneuver, Dr. Petrov approached Ambassador Varick on the Eternal Wisdom's bridge. You're beginning to understand now, aren't you? The elderly scientist asked quietly. Understand what, Doctor? Why we converted our warships instead of simply building new vessels. Why the Prometheus appears to be one thing on the surface and another underneath. Varick's gaze remained fixed on the view screen, where the human vessel was now extending massive power conduits toward the Eternal Wisdom. Because you never know what you might face, the ambassador said slowly. Because adaptability itself is your greatest weapon. Petrov smiled. Precisely. The universe is too vast, too unpredictable for single-purpose designs. So we build ships that can change as circumstances demand. He gestured toward the anomaly, just as we're about to do now. As the power conduits connected between the two ships, the true capabilities of the former Supercarrier began to reveal themselves. Capabilities that would soon earn humanity the respect they had been denied. Part 3. Respect earned. The joint operation moved swiftly from planning to execution. A team of 6, 3 humans and 3 Kelveri, prepared to enter the gravitational anomaly via a specialized shuttle launched from the Prometheus. The shuttle itself represented yet another example of human adaptability. What had once been a naval fighter jet had been converted into a multi-environment exploration craft. Lieutenant Maya Okafor, the Prometheus's chief engineer, led the human contingent. Alongside her were Dr. Rivera and Specialist Zhang, a gravitational systems expert. The Kelveri team was led by Commander Zar Thul himself, accompanied by their top scientist, Kryn, and security officer Nexel. The corridor will only remain stable for approximately 20 minutes, Captain Chen explained during the final briefing. After that, the power requirements will exceed what our ships can safely provide. Understood, Okafor replied. 20 minutes to reach the device, disable it, and return. What if the device cannot be disabled? Nexel asked. their voice carrying the distinctive harmonic overtones of the Kelveri military caste. "Then we destroy it," Zarthol answered before any human could respond. "The safety of both our vessels takes priority." The shuttle launched into the maelstrom as both the Prometheus and Eternal Wisdom strained to maintain the corridor of stable space. From within, the anomaly resembled the interior of a massive storm. Swirling patterns of distorted light and matter that would have torn the shuttle apart were it not for the protected pathway. "Fascinating," Dr. Rivera murmured, her eyes fixed on her instruments. "The gravitational patterns suggest this anomaly isn't just a weapon or a trap. It's a prototype for something larger." "Larger?" Kren echoed, the Kelveri scientists' 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "What purpose could such a thing serve?" "Drive system, perhaps," Rivera suggested. "Create a controlled gravitational corridor through space. You could achieve effective faster-than-light travel without conventional engines." "Speculation later," Okafor interrupted. "We're approaching the core." The shuttle slowed as it neared the center of the anomaly. There, suspended in the eye of the gravitational storm, floated the device, a metallic sphere approximately 3 meters in diameter, covered in geometric patterns that pulsed with blue-green energy. "I recognize that configuration," Kren said suddenly, leaning forward. "Those patterns, they're similar to theoretical work being done by the Voth Consortium." "The who?" Zhang asked. "A species from a neighboring sector," Zarthol explained. "Highly advanced, but isolationist. We've had limited diplomatic contact." "Well, it seems their isolation policy has exceptions," Okafor observed dryly. "Can you interface with it?" Kren hesitated. "Possibly. Their systems are complex, but not incomprehensible." As the shuttle maneuvered closer to the device, an alarm sounded from the communication system. "Lieutenant Okafor," came Captain Chen's voice, distorted by interference, "we're detecting changes in the anomaly structure. Whatever you're going to do it quickly. The corridor is becoming unstable." "Acknowledged, Captain. We're moving to disable the device now." The shuttle extended a robotic arm equipped with specialized tools. Under Kren's guidance, they began attempting to access what appeared to be a control panel on the sphere's surface. "The encryption is multilayered," the Kelveri scientist reported after several tense minutes. "I can bypass some of it, but a complete shutdown may be beyond our capabilities in the time we have." "Then we go with Plan B," Okafor decided. "Dr. Rivera, prepare the gravitational inverter." Rivera opened a case containing what looked like a small metallic disc. "This will reverse the device's gravitational field, causing it to collapse in on itself. But we'll need to attach it directly to the power source." "Which is located where?" Zarthol asked. Rivera pointed to a pulsing section of the sphere. "Based on the energy readings, I'd say there." As they prepared to attach the inverter, the device suddenly emitted a burst of energy. The shuttle rocked violently. "It's adapting," Kren exclaimed. "It recognized our interference attempt and is generating countermeasures." Another burst hit the shuttle, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. "Structural integrity compromised," Zhang reported. "One more hit like that, and we'll lose hull integrity." "We need a direct connection to override its defenses," Kren said, "but the automated systems won't get close enough now that it's actively defending itself." A moment of tense silence followed as everyone realized what this meant. Finally, Zarthol spoke. "I will take the inverter and attach it manually." "That's suicide," Okafor protested. "Even in an EVA suit, the gravitational forces outside our shuttle would crush you." "Not necessarily," Rivera interjected, her expression thoughtful. "The Kelveri physiological structure is more resistant to gravitational stress than a human's. And if we reconfigure the shuttle's localized field projector to create a temporary bubble around Commander Zarthol, it could work," Kren agreed. "Calculations already running on its handheld device. But the field would only last approximately 40 seconds before collapsing." 40 seconds is sufficient," Zarthol stated with finality. As the Kelveri commander prepared for the spacewalk, Okafor pulled Rivera aside. "This is too risky," she whispered. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Rivera replied. "Not in the time we have left. The corridor is already beginning to collapse." Zarful, now encased in a specialized EVA suit, stood at the shuttle's airlock with the gravitational inverter secured to his suit. "Remember," Rivera instructed, "once the field projector is activated, you'll have exactly 40 seconds. Place the inverter on the power node, activate it, and return immediately." The commander nodded, his expression resolute behind his helmet visor. "If I do not return, tell Ambassador Varric that the Kelveri Federation has found worthy allies in humanity." With that, the airlock cycled open, and Zarthul launched himself toward the device, propelled by the shuttle's maneuvering thrusters. Back on the Prometheus, Captain Chen watched the operation unfold through fragmented sensor data. The corridor was degrading faster than anticipated, forcing both ships to channel dangerous levels of power to maintain it. "Status of the Eternal Wisdom," she demanded. "Their hull integrity is down to 63%, the tactical officer reported. "They're redirecting power from life support to maintain the containment field." Chen opened a channel. "Ambassador Varric, your ship is taking too much damage. We need to abort the mission and withdraw." "Negative, Captain," came the surprising reply. "Commander Zarthul is still within the anomaly. The Kelveri do not abandon their own. At this rate, your ship will suffer catastrophic failure before they can return." There was a pause before Varric responded. "Then what do you suggest, Captain?" Chen took a deep breath. "A full integration of our systems. If we route all power through the Prometheus's main reactor and use your ship's crystalline lattice as a conductive amplifier, we might be able to strengthen the corridor long enough for the team to complete their mission. Such an integration has never been attempted between our technologies. I know, but right now, it's the only option that gives everyone a chance to survive." Another pause, then. "Very well, Captain Chen. The Kelveri Federation places its trust in human ingenuity. Proceed with the integration." As engineers from both ships worked frantically to link their systems, Zarthul reached the mysterious device. The gravitational forces tugged at him from all directions, despite the protective field surrounding him. With methodical precision, he attached the inverter to the pulsing power node and activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the device's energy patterns began to fluctuate wildly. "It's working," Rivera exclaimed, watching the readings from the shuttle. "The inverter is causing a cascading failure in the device's power systems." But as Zarthul turned to return to the shuttle, the device emitted one final massive energy pulse. The commander was thrown backward, tumbling through the gravitational currents toward the edge of the corridor. Without hesitation, Okafor sealed her helmet and grabbed the emergency tether. "I'm going after him." "Lieutenant, the field projector is configured for Kelveri physiology," Zhang protested. "A human body want." "Then reconfigure it," Okafor snapped, already moving toward the airlock. "You have about 10 seconds." The human engineer launched herself into the chaos, propelled along the guide wire they had established. The gravitational forces immediately began pulling at her from all directions, threatening to tear her apart despite the hastily reconfigured field. Through sheer determination, she reached Zarthul, who was drifting in and out of consciousness, his suit damaged but intact. Securing the tether to his harness, Okafor gave the signal to reel them both in. As they were pulled back toward the shuttle, the device behind them began to implode, collapsing in on itself as the gravitational inverter did its work. "The anomaly is destabilizing," Rivera reported as they sealed the airlock. "We need to get out of here immediately." The shuttle's engines fired at maximum thrust, racing back along the deteriorating corridor toward the waiting ships. Behind them, the mysterious device continued its implosion, creating a gravitational singularity that began consuming the anomaly itself. On the Prometheus, the integrated systems of the human and Calvary vessels strained to maintain the corridor for just a few seconds longer. Conduits overheated, circuit breakers blew, and warning alarms sounded throughout both ships. Shuttle ETA 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. The corridor won't hold that long. Divert all remaining power to the forward section, Chen ordered. We don't need to maintain the entire corridor, just enough for them to reach us. As the last reserves of power flowed through the integrated systems, the shuttle burst from the collapsing anomaly, its hull scorched and battered but intact. Behind it, the corridor finally collapsed, followed by the anomaly itself as the singularity created by the device's implosion consumed it entirely. In the aftermath, as both ships conducted repairs and medical teams treated the injured, Captain Chen and Ambassador Varric met in what had once been the Prometheus's flight bridge, now converted into a diplomatic reception area. Commander Zarthol will recover fully, Varric informed her. Our medical staff says his injuries, while serious, are not life-threatening. I'm glad to hear it, Chen replied. Lieutenant Okafor is recovering as well. The gravitational exposure caused some cellular damage, but our regeneration technology should restore her completely within a few weeks. Varric was silent for a moment, his gaze moving around the room, taking in the details of what had once been a warship's command center and was now a place of peaceful negotiation. I owe you an apology, Captain, he finally said. I misjudged your vessel, your people, and your intentions. No apology necessary, Ambassador. First contacts are always challenging. Nevertheless, I failed to understand the fundamental philosophy behind your ship's design. I saw the repurposing of a war,